This is the employee training for the emergency action plan for the Akron facility. In Akron, Jeff Johnston, the general manager, and Bobby Chuck have responsibility for implementing this plan. In case of emergency, Jeff or Bobby will call Terry or Ken Kuhlman at the main office to bring them up to speed and for any advice that might be needed as far as activating the emergency procedures. If Ken or Terry can't be reached, we're going to reach the most senior officer in the company that's available to assist. And if Jeff and Bobby are not available, the most senior Akron employee working at the facility at the time the emergency happens has full authority to implement this plan. If we have a fire, medical, or other emergency, 911 is the resource of choice to use. So remember, in emergency, sometimes we get stressed and we're not thinking clearly. Remember, if you're using a desktop phone from within the office building, you have to hit 9 to get an outside line before you can hit 911. There's instances where people are just hitting 911 and not realizing why the calls aren't going through. Every second counts in an emergency. So remember, 9 first, then 911 if a desktop telephone, and of course just 911 from a cell phone. So any employee can call 911 if there's an emergency, but certainly inform Jeff or Bobby right away, or both, as far as who do we call and what's the scope, what type of emergency is there going on. It's important to note, God forbid if we have a fatality of an employee at our facility during the workday, this has to be reported to OSHA, even if it's a heart attack or medical emergency. You have 8 hours to report it to OSHA. So certainly get the safety director involved. We'll call the information into OSHA. This is any time, any day of the year. So midnight on Christmas Day, this would have to be reported. Any incident, of course, that's serious enough to require inpatient hospitalization or an amputation of a digit or loss of an eye must be reported to OSHA within 24 hours, year-round. Anytime we have an emergency at our facility, we're going to use the radios to contact warehouse people, and of course, verbally voice commands to anybody that's inside the office building. I know we also have a loudspeaker that we can use to inform those that don't have radios in the yard, such as customers, delivery drivers, vendors, visitors, contractor personnel, those types of people. So those are our methods of informing anyone that's at our facility. If we have a tornado warning, we're going to alert and account for all employees and visitors, customers. Anybody that's there, we're going to shelter in the restrooms off the showroom. If we're in the showroom or the warehouse, yard areas, we're going to shelter in the southwest corner of the office building, that break room. So these are areas that don't have outside windows. If we have time, if the tornado is not right on top of us, we're going to close and lock the showroom doors and the warehouse doors, just to keep debris from doors getting sucked open and perhaps breaking, and also debris from flying inside of our facilities. Of course, if we get blizzards or other serious weather conditions, I know snow is the most serious weather condition that we deal with. Level 3, if it's illegal to drive on the road, you're not to report to work. Level 2 or level 1, certainly contact your supervisor. Give Jeff a call, text, see if you should report to work. It's important to note that sometimes a level 3, happens during the workday. If the snow is serious, usually you get a heads up that a level 3 is coming. We can certainly talk about, and Jeff or Bobby can call Ken or Terry in this situation and talk about sending people home early. Also, you could have a level 3 that happens overnight, so you don't report to work in the morning, and that can change and be downgraded to a level 2, level 1, or even no snow emergency as crews are out battling the snowstorm during the day, you may need to report to work, during the day as these levels are reduced. So again, if that happens, contact your supervisor, get a hold of Jeff or Bobby and see if you need to come into work later in the day. Medical emergencies, again, 911 is our help of choice. Desktop phone in the office, dial 9 first, then 911, or 911 from a cell phone. We do have the automated external defibrillator located on the file cabinet near the break room. Trained employees can use this in the case of cardiac arrest. This machine will give a shock if needed, but it's also a great tool to assist in CPR. It's got pads that go onto the chest of the person experiencing the medical emergency, can advise if CPR is needed, and can also help give the right timing of chest compressions and give feedback if, to state if the chest compressions are deep enough to be effective. So this is a great tool to use by trained employees. We need somebody to stay in comfort in any injured person or any person experiencing medical emergency until the 911 can respond. So Jeff or Bobby can do that, or any other trained employee can comfort this person until 911 help arrives. Should we have a serious fire, explosion, any of these other types of incidents that are major incident, report to Jeff, Bobby right away. And we're going to get 911 called. Again, hit 9 first from a desktop phone. We might need to evacuate in these types of situations. If we do need to evacuate, that'll be described on the next 2 slides. Certainly if a small fire breaks out, if we have a chemical spill, these types of things that can be cleaned up, or fire can be addressed quickly. We're going to get that rolling right away. It can be addressed by that employee that's in that area, but get Jeff or Bobby on the radio, get them informed, send somebody else to let them know what's going on. Again, small fire, you want to get 911 called, even if it's a small fire that you think you can put out with a fire extinguisher. We want to get 911 called so we can get the fire department en route, just in case that fire doesn't get put out by the fire extinguisher or extinguishers, and we need help getting that put out. So get 911 called. If you have a chemical spill or any other product that we're not sure with, check the safety data sheet that's in our on our server for the product. Determine what kind of personal protective equipment is required to properly clean up that spill, and then using the spill control methods, the pads, the booms, use the rubber gloves, the goggles, those types of things to properly and safely clean up any chemical spill. If there's a possibility of being injured by the product to do the cleanup, we can wait for emergency hazardous material cleanup crews to respond. As referred to on the previous slide, here are the evacuation procedures. If we need to do an evacuation, Jeff or Bobby would order the immediate evacuation of the employees, any contractor employees that might be doing work at our facility, any visitors, customers. Again, we're going to use the radio, we can use the loudspeaker, we can use voice commands within the office. If we're going to evacuate, on the next page, it'll show the evacuation routes. The main route is through the main gate. We're going to meet in the southwest corner of the parking lot that borders Swartz Road. Secondary route will be the gate on the east side of the building, office building / warehouse. And we're still going to meet in the southwest corner of the front parking lot. It's important to note, once we've evacuated, make sure we've called 911. We need to make sure all employees, contractor employees, if there's any there, any delivery drivers, any visitors, we need to make sure that everybody's out. And also we can't be leaving, you know, you can't get in your car and take off until we make sure everybody's out and you are dismissed to leave. Because if you leave and we don't know that you've left, we might be looking for you or sending an emergency response person in to look for you. And that might be putting their life at danger looking for somebody that's already left the building. We do have emergency contacts for each employee. Make sure those are up to date, please. If you have a medical emergency and can't communicate to us who to call to let them know what's going on, we need to have that information that we consult in the event of emergency, so we can contact, you know, whoever you designate to call if there's an emergency. So, Bobby or Jeff will contact Terry or Ken at the main office to let them know what's going on. If they're not available, the most senior manager or officer in the company must be contacted to let them know what's going on. Uh, there are other phone numbers of agencies that might need to be called, such as the EPA, OSHA, those types of things that'll be listed on the last page of this plan. And anybody that responds to emergencies, such as a fire chief, um, you know, law enforcement, you want to get contact information for any of those types of folks that we can get in touch with, you know, after the incident's over. Be aware too that we might have, you know, Jeff or one of our delivery drivers out making a delivery, or sales staff that are out making sales calls, or other employees that might be gone on lunch. We want to contact them and let them know if we've had to evacuate. You know, don't plan on coming back to the yard. You know, we don't have a place for you to park. We just want to make them aware of what's going on, and then again, have them make other plans to go to rather than coming back to the facility if we've had to evacuate. Here's the map of the evacuation paths and meeting location. Again, you can see exit path number 1 written in red. That's out the main gate. Meeting location, southwest corner. Exit path number 2, let's say exit path number 1, it has you know, a fire blocking that, or other, if that's where the hazard is and we can't get out that way, we're going to get out on the east side of the building, but we'll still meet in that southwest corner. You know, it's possible that an emergency response team will show up and say, look, we need to move further away, or they might release us to go home. We can do that. We need to follow their instruction if that's the case. We might need to go to the other side of Swartz or on the southeast corner. We're going to follow their direction. They'll be in charge of the facility when they show up. If you have any questions on this policy, certainly contact Jeff or Bobby. You can also contact Terry Schaefer or Steve Grau, Safety Director. It's important to note that anytime you have anything major happen, media shows up. They're looking for stories. They're looking for comments. They want to get immediate feedback of what happened. And it's important to note that please decline to comment politely, firmly. Tell them that any comment on behalf of the company has to come from the company president, Ken Kuhlman, and you can give them the main number for the main office, 419-897-6000. Only the president or vice president of the company can speak to the media on behalf of the company. Very important to remember that. We've had things happen in the past and employees have been misquoted, and that's why we have this policy. Emergency training, what we're doing today needs to be done when this plan is updated, which it has been. All new employees, as they're hired, are given this plan. Anytime new equipment's been purchased, when we do an evacuation drill and it shows that we're not prepared, we'll do retraining. And we have to do this at least annually, which is what this video is for today. Jeff, Bobby, or Steve Grau will do the necessary training. Here's some of those emergency phone numbers that we talked about. If the EPA needs to be reached, here's EPA number, OSHA numbers, Hazardous Materials Response Center, 800 number, as well as phone numbers for Ken, Terry, Steve, Jeff, and Bobby. If there's any questions on this plan, please contact, like I said, Jeff, Bobby, Steve Grau, or Terry Schaefer. Thank you, and that concludes the emergency action plan training.